Hello monsters and monster enthusiasts, and welcome to the channel. In this video I wanted to make a retrospective of 2022 and giving some insights on what could be coming in 2023. I wanted to make this video in January, but there was a lot of things going on and I wanted everything to settle down first. Something incredible happened to me, but it required a lot of time and efforts on my part. This big change may be beneficial to the channel and my art projects in general, but it required me to take some time off to make it happen. Before we jump into the subject, just some quick reminders. You can give a like and subscribe to see more art tutorial and art related videos. You can also follow me on Instagram to see pictures of my makeups and my drawings, and you can find the link in the description. A big part of this video will be more of a personal story time, but it will help to understand how my personal life also affects my capacity to produce content. One of the reasons why I struggled to create content in 2022 was because of my job. I work as a software developer, and I'd been working for the same company since when I finished school. This job was with a consulting firm. Basically, they would lend me to a client and the client would pay them to have my services. At the end of university, I had to do my internship, and I did it with this company. And at the end of my internship, they offered me a position and I took it. Also, I was a supervisor, which meant that I had a lot of supervision tasks to complete outside of the client's hours, basically in some form of overtime. I had to meet the employees, write their annual evaluations, present their salary revisions, etc. Being in a leadership position was just natural after 10 years in the army as an officer. When I was still in the army and still captain, I was happy to take this supervision task at my civil job. But after I left the army and started to do art, I was less interested and it was giving me less time to do art. That task was giving me a little bonus, but in the end, I wasn't really sure if it was worth all the time and efforts I was putting into it. A lot of big changes started to occur in 2022. The company had been bought by a big corporation in 2000, but it never really showed. You had to know that the big corporation was owning the company, because it never felt we were in a big corporation. We still had this medium-sized business mentality where a lot of focus is put on the employees and not that S&P 500 mentality where shareholders are the top priority. Since 2019, I kind of saw some signs that we were slowly merging with the big corporation. It started with simple things, like using the parent corporation's email system instead of having a duplicate system of our own. In 2021, they forced all employees to do a 48-hour training about cloud computing. It was long, but I did it without complaining, thinking it was a one-time deal. Then, in 2022, they asked us to complete another 40 hours of training, but this time we could choose the subject. That 40 hour of training always had to be completed outside of client's hour, which is fair. The client is paying us to complete their task, so that training from my company don't have to pay for it. But it meant that it had to be completed in some form of overtime. We are paid by the week, but they were not paying more for the training, so it was some form of mandatory unpaid overtime. I hated it. At first, I thought that it was not that bad, and it just meant around 45 minutes more per week, which is not necessarily that much. But the problem is that we also got a lot of other tasks and meetings outside of the client's hours. Also, my supervision tasks were taking more and more time as well. All of that together meant that the 45 minutes to do each week was not that easy to do. Also, I just had no motivation to do it, since I couldn't see the point of that training. The only reason they made us do it was because it was part of the big corporation standards. The more time passed, the more frustrated I got with this mandatory training. 40 hours is a little over a week of work. It doesn't seem that much, but I'm pretty sure that if I would have asked for 40 hours of additional holidays, they would have just laughed at me because it would have been too much. I'm not closed to the idea of doing training and to acquire new competences, but the problem is that it had to be done on the company's system. Basically, if I was learning something new, just doing my regular day job, it couldn't count because it had to be training done on the company's, on the big corporations' system. Everything done outside of that just wouldn't count. So that was another big part of the frustration regarding this mandatory training. On the other hand, I had a very good year and I got a perfect annual evaluation. I just couldn't get a higher score. It was a good omen for a good pay raise, maybe the best pay raise I would have ever gotten. We normally receive our pay raises in early July. I was really excited until we got a message 1 week prior to the scheduled date in late June. We just got a message telling us that our pay raises would be delayed until at least September. It would be retroactive so that we wouldn't lose anything, but the delay was still unexpected and disappointing. We never really got any formal reason why everything got delayed, other than it was just an administrative delay. I was mad and disappointed, but there was nothing I could do except waiting. I had the perfect evaluation and I wanted to get my pay raise. When I finally got it in October, it was so disappointing. Inflation was high at around 10%, and even with a perfect evaluation, I couldn't get even half the inflation. I was just so pissed that the day after I received my pay raise, I decided to create my LinkedIn account and start looking for a new job. After 12 years with the company, the time had come to finally look elsewhere. Being a senior software developer on LinkedIn is like being a good-looking girl on Tinder. People were fighting just to get my attention. Once my profile was completed, I slowly but slowly started to receive offers. In the end, I got contacted by around 20 businesses and recruiters. Things got serious with around 10 of them. I all told them that I would wait after the holidays before making a move. So, in November and December, I had to do a lot of things outside of work. First of all, I had to do some overtime with my job, and I also spent a lot of time for my job search, especially for writing my resume. At the end, I spotted 2 offers that were really interesting, and I asked to get an interview in January for both of them. Both companies had an interesting salary and good benefits. Both were allowing me to work fully remote. I did the first interview with the one who seemed to have the best benefits. The interview went super well, but the more I asked questions about the benefits, it felt like there was always a catch. Like, you do get Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve off, like in most companies, but there, if it falls during a weekend, you just don't get any time off. In opposition to other companies where if Christmas Eve land on a Saturday, you would get Friday off instead. They said that there was a gym on site, but it was more like a bench and a treadmill in the same room. When came time to talk about salary, they asked my expectations. I said that I got told by the recruiter that it was starting at a certain amount and that I was hoping to get at least that amount. Then they were playing dumb, saying that they didn't know I got told that, and they offered me $15,000 less than the minimum I got told. Not only that, but it now also felt below my current salary. So after they told me that, they asked me if I was okay completing a technical exam. I was like, I'm not really sure I want to do this now, since you told me that the salary is now below what I actually get. So the interview kind of ended up in an awkward way, but yeah, I was just really disappointed, and I think that my illusions just got shattered. I think it was like lending back to reality, that yeah, maybe I got some really good offers, but maybe that's just because most of it are lies anyway, so it was like a wake-up call and the realization that yeah, maybe I'm fully optimistic about having better opportunities, but maybe I'll show up in the interview and realize that it was a lie all along. The next week, I got my interview for the second job. The interview was supposed to last an hour, but it lasted 2 hours instead. The more we talked, the more I learned about benefits that were not advertised at first. It went well, and they asked me for a second interview for a technical exam the following week. They sent me around 5,000 lines of code to analyze so that they could ask me questions about it during the interview. It had been years since the last time I did a technical exam, so I had just no clue about what a technical exam would look like in 2023. So, to practice for the technical exam, I actually did the test the first company sent me just to practice for the second company. I really took the time to study the code. Not only it was long, but it was complicated. Even if I'd been programming in C# for years, there was still a few keywords that I saw for the first time. So I really read the code, studied the code, I took notes, I reviewed my notes, I asked them questions for parts that I wasn't sure. So the interview came, and I was just so unsure. I knew that I did at least okay, but I don't think it was outstanding. At the end, they told me that if I would get an offer, I would get it in the next 24 hours. So after that, I was just super nervous and super anxious, just waiting for their answer. Finally, 4 hours later, I received a message from the recruiter telling me that they were ready to make me an offer. So it was really quicker than expected. So they scheduled an appointment for the day after. I was really nervous because I was really hoping that the salary and benefits were as I was told and not like what happened with the first company. In the end, everything was alright. The salary was in the upper half of what was proposed. The salary was actually like a reasonable maximum that I would have expected. So I accepted the offer and finally changed job. For me, it was the first time switching full-time job. It took a lot of time, but it was so worth it. I switched jobs in mid-February. Now I work fully remote, no overtime, less responsibilities, and a way better salary. I got a pay increase of around 40%. This is kind of insane. I had a hard time to believe it at first. For me, that kind of salary was not something I thought was even reachable. I thought that it was the kind of salary that I would only get by switching job and taking new responsibility, like switching job role and taking new responsibilities. It's not a salary that I thought I would get as a programmer. I also got an upgrade for my setup. They sent me a new monitor, a docking station, and now my filming setup is even better. There's still a lot of things to do and a lot of paperwork to complete with both my previous and my new employer. Despite being now 100% remote, I still haven't been able to fully benefit from that new free time because of all those little tasks. Anyway, switching job was just such a relief. In the end, with my former employer, it just felt like I was standing on a sunken ship. Bad news were just keeping coming. It was such a big deal for me since it was the first time I made such a move to really get what I wanted. My former employer promised us the ability to work fully remote, but when I asked about it, they were just trying to find excuses not to grant it. I wanted to be fully remote, and I got what I wanted. It's almost bittersweet in a certain way as well. For many years, I've been working 2 jobs and doing my best, working up to exhaustion, but it always felt it was never enough to get a significant improvement on my salary or working condition. I could barely get a promotion. Instead of working harder, the thing to do was just to find a job elsewhere. Work smarter and not harder is maybe the lesson to take from this whole adventure. Other things happened last fall that hindered my ability to make content. If you have a good sense of observation, you may have noticed that I got new tattoos. I already got one on my left shoulder, but now I got 2 new tattoos right underneath it on my left arm to create a kind of half sleeve down to the elbow. They were big, colorful, new school tattoos and they took quite a while to heal. One of them healed pretty quickly and perfectly, but the other one didn't heal well and took way longer to heal. While my tattoos were still healing, it was just not the best time for me to shoot videos or even to draw. I tried to create content, but with the tattoos and the job seeking, I had to dedicate a lot of time for other aspects of my life. I really hope that my new job would enable me to get more time for my social media journey. For what's coming in 2023, I'm still unsure. I think I finally realized why I struggle so much about the idea of going back to makeup. I decided to make shorter tutorials and doing all the painting on the back of my hand in overview mode, and I do really love this format. I will continue to do this kind of tutorials. Being able to show how I use the products in overview mode is really great, and I wish I would have found tutorials like those when I started learning makeup. I don't think I will do full face of makeup though. As I often said, after 150 makeup looks, I think I've done pretty much everything that I wanted to do. Also, a lot of my makeup products actually expired and I'm not sure I'm willing to invest that amount of money to go back into it. I planned to do a video explaining everything in detail, but I mostly lost the motivation to do so. I do struggle a little bit with motivation, but slowly, things are getting better. My new job is helping me on that mostly in two ways. First, by working fully remotely, I stop losing time in traffic. Also, with my new job, I don't have to do overtime anymore. I still had a lot of things to do and settle outside of work hours, but now most of it is done and I'm slowly enjoying all of that new free time. I've been able to put more of it toward making content. Secondly, my new salary allowed me to improve my setup. My actual setup was already a big upgrade from the one I had in my other apartment, but my desk just always felt cluttered. Now, among many things, I've been able to buy a big IKEA bookcase that I've put right next to my desk. I've been able to declutter my desk while keeping everything at arm's reach, and it does help a lot. I don't know, just not having to move everything around every time I just want to draw or shoot a video does also help with motivation, and it's slowly showing in my everyday life. On the other hand, I already spend all of my days at my desk in front of my computer for work, and it does have an impact on my motivation. It then becomes difficult to go back to it to produce content, but I'm trying to work on that. It's really a problem that I started to experience when I started to work mostly from home back in 2021. It also coincided with the moment I started to post way less frequently on social medias. But recently, I realized that some part of content production don't need to be done in front of my computer. Whenever I do a video, I have to write a script or just brainstorm about concept for our video, or do some research and take notes. I don't have to do those parts on my computer. Right now, I decided to do it on paper and always have a notepad next to the couch in the living room if I want to take notes. I still may need to do some parts on my computer, but at least I will spend way less time at it. For YouTube, I want to try new things too. As I said, I love the new format of shorter makeup tips and tricks videos, and I plan to do more of it. I still have a lot of footage for speed drawing videos, but I tend to save them for a particular topic and ending up not using them. I do want to make more of them, but I have to make up my mind on the topics that I want to talk about. There's actually a lot of topics that I want to talk about, but since some of them are not art related, I'm more hesitant about it. Especially because some of them are more like just sharing some personal experience that may relate to art or career in general, but I'm just not as sure like how much it would be related to my usual content. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant about it. I also want to do more topic tutorials. I did one that was a little bit too long, but I would like to make some in the same short and detailed format that I do for makeup technique, like just picking one technique and focusing on it for like a 5 or 10 minute video. But one aspect that I may want to do more tutorial about is on how to draw monsters or how to do monsters makeup. I mean, my name is Monster J Art after all. So maybe doing tutorial not on using the medium, but more about design. Topics like how to do monster teeth, how to do monster's eyes, how to do a menacing glare, things like that. Also, I had written full scripts for a series of another art-related topic, but I lost everything that I wrote. It was on a file on my computer, but I don't know what happened. The file just disappeared. I mean, I'm in computer science, I looked everywhere where it could be, but I've never been able to find it. So, I just lost everything. I kind of gave up on it for a while, but it's the kind of project that I want to try again, the kind of project that I'm still writing about in my notebook next to the couch. Even if I loved the script, I had to do a bunch of research for it, and I still have a lot of what I read still fresh in my mind. So I don't want to pressure myself too much for it, But that's why I don't really want to give up on this project even if I have to start over. It's weird to say, but one thing that drove my motivation at the beginning of my YouTube channel was my departure from the army. I almost did it out of spite, just to prove myself and everyone else that I could succeed after leaving the army, that I made the right choice and that I'm way better now. It was a voluntary departure, but mostly because I just couldn't handle the toxicity of the workplace anymore, and I was really bitter about it. The thing is, all of that kind of just worked, and I don't really think about the army anymore. I don't have to prove anything to myself in that regard. I'm way happier and I don't feel the need to try to prove it to anyone else anymore. I don't feel the pressure to perform. I want to do it only for the pleasure of doing it. But it's also the reason why I started to allow myself to dedicate more time to other aspects of my life too, especially my health. I've never been that assiduous going to the gym, I'm eating way better now, and I'm also getting enough sleep now. I still want to continue creating content, but that's why I'm not as focused on it as I was before. So here you have it. It was my retrospective of 2022 and what are my plans and hope for 2023. We're now reaching the end of the video, so I hope you really enjoyed it. If so, please feel free to give a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye!